Okay, welcome everybody to the May 11th, 2021 meeting of the Walpole Town Select Board. You know, the time is after 7 p.m. We're going to get started. We have a busy agenda tonight, and I see we have quite a few people here in the meeting, so we will move as expediently as possible. I'll remind everyone that we're participating under the Governor's remote authorization participation for public boards due to the emergency declaration order that was issued on March 12th, 2020. Every vote will be taken by a roll call vote. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, and the first item we have under our appointments this evening is a vote to appoint candidate Justin Labonte to, excuse me, I hope I got that name right, to the position of firefighter paramedic. So I see that we have him with us tonight, as well as Fire Chief Tim Bailey. So, Chief, if you'd like to kick us off, please go right ahead.
Thank you to the board. Tonight I come before you with Justin Labonte. Justin is trained as a full-time firefighter. He was in recruit class 268. He had a year of full-time experience with the Seekonk Fire Department, but chose, through no fault of his own, he ran out of time getting his medic, and he is now here with us, and he's almost complete with his medic. The only thing he has left to do is his ride time. We've been helping him get through that ride time, and we will continue to do so. But in the meantime, we'll be able to bring him on board and acclimate him to our way of doing things. And with that being said, I'll let you meet. I don't know if we've lost you or not, but
no, go ahead. Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yeah, we lost our screen, but so I'd like to present Justin Labonte and any questions that you may have of him.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Labonte, for joining us tonight. Usually how we handle these things is we have you say a little bit about yourself and your background, and obviously, you're applying to the position of firefighter paramedic, the chief's recommendation. And after you say a little bit about yourself, we'll just go around to the board members, any questions or comments that they might have. So please go ahead and introduce us to you a little bit.
Yeah, as Bailey said, I'm Justin Labonte. I'm originally from Pembroke, but I now live in Norwood after I met my wife in college, moved to Norwood, and hopefully one day the end goal is to live in Walpole. So this is definitely a great opportunity, and I really appreciate being able to come to this department. As love to work in the town that I live in, serve the community that way. So. But yeah, I've been married for a few years now, and just very excited to get out of the department and get the career and experience.
Great, thank you. Well, again, thank you for joining us tonight. So we'll just go around to the board here briefly for any questions or comments. Nancy McKenzie, if we could start with you, please.
Hi, nice to meet you. I don't have any questions. Your resume looks great, and just want to say welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Nancy. Jim O'Neill, please.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. And Justin, thank you for coming here tonight. Like Nancy, I think your resume looks really strong, and just want to welcome you to Walpole. And thank you for being willing to be one of our first responders, and wish you the best of luck. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. David Salvatore?
So apparently you were unable to complete the paramedic training. How much more did you have to do on your own?
I just had to complete the clinical and ride time, and then I can take the test. So.
But how much did you have to complete between leaving Seacon and more recently? Have you had to work on that in the meantime, or?
Yes, I had to still complete the class portion, which then led to the clinical, and then the ride time through that. So I still had to get a good portion of it done. Yes.
And so, did you have to pay for the classes yourself at that point?
Yes, I did. So yes, definitely to go through it. But it's something I definitely wanted to do, and just wanted to take a chance and complete it. So.
Great. It certainly shows your commitment to the role, and I appreciate that. That you had to go through that extra effort. I think shows a lot about your desire to be a firefighter, and I think you'll find that our department is very good at keeping people up on their training and certifications and upgrading skills. So welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, David. And Mark Gallivan, please.
Hi, Justin. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I noticed you sort of did a career switch from technical support specialist into the fire department. When did you know you wanted to be a firefighter paramedic and make the switch?
It was something I always wanted to do. I played soccer growing up, and one of my best friend's dad was a chief, so I was around that a lot. So I wanted to do that. I felt like I wanted to do that, and obviously made a choice to go to college and pursue that way. So yeah, a few years after graduating and actually working and being the software support technician and just being in an office behind a computer, I realized I couldn't do that long term. So I decided to make the switch and went to EMT school and went through that, and then started the paramedic. So.
Great. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Mark. And I would just echo all the comments, Ms. Labonte, that everyone has made. So thank you again for coming before us. I would hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint firefighter candidate Justin Labonte to the position of firefighter paramedic.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0. Congratulations, firefighter Labonte.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to town and best of luck.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Ben. Ben, if I may, for 1 second, just give you a quick update on the 4th of July.
Please.
After discussion with Jim and Board of Health 2 months ago, and nothing has really changed that much. Things are starting to change a little bit, but not enough where we're able to have the night before the 4th this year. So I just want the board to be aware that we are not going to be going forward this year, unfortunately. So.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that clarification. Thank you, Chief.
All right. Thank you.
Right. Thanks. Have a good night, guys.
Yes, you too.
Okay. Being that it is not 7:30 p.m. for our public hearing, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is a vote request of 5-star franchises DBA Jersey Mike Subs for a common victual license operate at Old Post Road. And actually, Aoife, do you know if we have?
So Brian is jumping on the call, but I believe it probably would be closer to the 7:40 time. So I'm not sure if you just want to. Yeah, if you just want to maybe move to the new business items, and we can run through some of those while we're waiting, if that's okay. Thank you.
Sure. No, that's great. Thanks, Aoife. Okay, so we'll skip down, seeing that we're about a little over 15 minutes ahead of our appointments, and some folks aren't yet on the meeting. We'll go to the first item under new business, which is vote request of the Veterans Agent Mark Bryson to use the town common on Monday, May 31st for Memorial Day, in addition to blocking off a portion of Elm Street from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we have Mr. Bryson on here, I saw. Yes, there he is. All right, Mr. Bryson, if you want to unmute yourself. And I think, what we'll do here is just have you give a little background on what you're looking to do. I know that all of us have attended the Memorial Day observances in the past, but if you could give a little background on that, and then we can have any questions from the board. So please. I actually can't hear you, Mr. Bryson. Can anybody else hear him? Is that just me?
No.
Ben, how about while they work on that, I'll make a motion to approve the request to use the town common on Monday, May 31st, 2021 for Memorial Day and block off a portion of the Elm Street for approximately 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
I'll second that motion. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion from a member of the board while Mr. Bryson gets his mic working?
Hear me?
Yes.
Hear you now, clear as a bell.
Jeez.
Cool.
They fixed it, but it had to switch over again. Thanks.
No, that's a quick fix. It's actually pretty impressive. So go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, I know I looked at the previous meetings. I mean, the previous Memorial Days observances. They usually was on the common. And that's why I'm requesting it again, once again this year. I know 2018 they had the high school band, but due to the protocols this year, we're not able to have the high school band, but we'll have the regular stuff that's going to happen this year with buglers and snare drum, stuff like that. The main important thing just to make sure that, just want to, for me, it's my first event. And I just want to go smoothly as possible. More importantly, just getting the permission for the town to use the town commons in order for this Memorial Day observance for this year.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Bryson. I appreciate that. We'll just, I'll just make a request to the board here. Is there any other discussions or question from the board? We have a motion and a second. Being that there is none, we'll proceed with the roll call vote on the Memorial Day observance and use of Elm Street. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Bryson, for joining us this evening, and we'll look for you at the observance on 31st. Look forward to meeting you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night. Good night.
Yep. Good night.
Good night. The next item under new business is a vote award of bid contract for standby generators.
I'll make a motion to award bid contract 2021-11 for standby generators to Fall River Electric Associates in the amount of $213,359.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions from the board on this item? Being that there isn't any, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0. The next item.
I'll make a motion to award bid contract 2021-18 roadway, sidewalk, and parking lot resurfacing at various locations in the amount of $1,158,961.80 to LaRusso Corp.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other further discussion or questions from the board on this item? For the folks who are watching at home, all of this information is included in the packet that the board gets before each meeting, and I see that we have all the folks on hand here with the town who review and approve and make recommendations on these sort of items. So, being that there is no further discussion or questions from the board, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And aye. Motion passes 5-0-0.
I'll make a motion to sign the state aid reimbursable program for complete streets in tier 3 in the amount of $54,073.01.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions from the board? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0.
I'll make a motion to sign the intermunicipal agreement with the towns of Norwood and Sharon to share the position of energy manager. Did you hear me?
I'll second that. And can we have maybe Jim just describe this a little bit to us?
Sure, if you don't mind, Ben.
Please do.
So what this is for, you may recall that about a week and a half ago at town meeting, we requested funding for $40,000, which was placed in administration to share the energy manager with Norwood and Sharon. Norwood and Sharon have been working on this for the past year or so. They've shared the position. They've welcomed Walpole in, which I'm really pleased with. So this person will continue to ensure that we're eligible for all the green opportunities and that we're upholding our end of the bargain here. I can tell you that the first project that we plan on pursuing is the purchase of the streetlights, which is going to be a substantial purchase from Eversource and switching them over to the LED lights. We're already working with Kara, who's been on with this board a few times over the last 6 to 9 months from the MAPC. They've been great to work with. So we're going to use some of this grant money to fund that request and hopefully have the funding in place for town meeting in the fall. And then eventually we'll purchase them, I'm guessing, probably sometime in the winter or the spring with Eversource. So this is really getting that ball rolling, which has been going, and welcome that. I'm really pleased that the general manager in Norwood and the town administrator and Sharon have been so great to work with. Sharon is voting on this tonight, and I expect that Norwood will be voting on this at their next meeting.
And if I could, Jim, do we have any estimate on the savings that we're going to get from moving to the LED lights?
Yes, I have actually broken down in a really detailed spreadsheet. I'll share it with you, but after looking at it, we budget about $424,000 a year for streetlights. I believe that number is going to be cut down into the 200,000 somewhere. That once we transition over, the overall cost is estimated to be about $700,000. I believe the Green Communities grant for the first year is in the mid 100s somewhere. So we're going to realize this cost savings within the first 4 or 5 years.
Great, thanks, Jim.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
Mark.
would say I think this is a really good idea all around. I like the idea of the LED streetlights, and I like the idea of working in conjunction with Sharon and Norwood. You know, the more we can do with some of the other nearby towns, I think is a win-win all around. So, great job, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions or comments? Being that there is none, we have a motion and a second. Proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for Carol Johnson to use the Springbrook Park on Saturdays, June 12th through October 23rd, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. for the annual farmers market.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board on this item? I would just add that the Walpole Farmers Market is a great event. I would encourage everybody to check it out once they do start up in June. We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. We'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for the New England High School Cycle Association to use Adams Farm on July 31st, 2021 from 9:30 to 2 p.m. for a girls of the league day, subject to compliance with all COVID-19 protocols.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or question from the board? If there is none, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0.
A motion to approve the request of the Blue Hills Cycle Club to use Adams Farm on June 30th, July 7th, July 14th, July 21st, July 28th, and August 4th, 11th, 18th, all of this year, 2021, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. for cycling training events subject to compliance with all COVID-19 protocols.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion from the board, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0. All right, and we have not quite made it to 7:30.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 20th and May 1st, 2021 as presented in our packet.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions from the board on the meeting minutes? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0.
Consent agenda. I'll make a motion to accept gifts from Tyler Ferguson for the Veterans Gift Account, Constance Bedros and Nancy Hurd to the Council on Aging, Sandra and Stephen Grundy and Nancy Hurd for the Council, gifts for James and Carol Hart for the Nancy Hurd Council on Aging gifts, for Peter and Nert Krussel for the ambulance gift account, and then various other donors to the Recreation Smiling Eyes Financial Assistance Program.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. Motion passes 5-0-0. Aoife, who are we waiting on for the Jersey Mike subs? Sorry.
No, you're fine. So I did receive an email from Brian. I think he's the manager. And he said he was going to jump on. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about their application if you want to just take care of that now. So they've actually already opened. However, they're just doing takeout right now, but they do plan on having some seating in there. They've received all their building permits. They've received their permits from the health department. They've gotten their business certificate from the town clerk's office. So in terms of everything that they need from the town, they're all set.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the 5-star franchise MA-3 LLC doing business as Jersey Mike Subs for a common vicular to operate at 965 Old Post Road.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion or qualms from the board? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. Motion passes, 5-0-0. And Aoife, you can go ahead and try to reach out to him and let him know that we don't require his attendance at this meeting.
Absolutely. I'm just sending him an email right now, so hopefully he gets it.
I don't know if he'll get it, but save him a couple minutes on a Tuesday evening anyway.
We'll try.
We'll try. All right. Well, we have, let's see, we still have a couple minutes here before we can open our public hearing. So
And I could go forward with the TA updates.
if you're comfortable doing so, Jim, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, not too much on here. Just a quick COVID update. At this time, there's 2,061 total confirmed cases in Walpole. 2,038 cases have completed monitoring and are closed out. Right now, we have 25 active cases, which is the lowest in a really long time. That's good news. I'm sure people are out getting the vaccine. I wanted to give the board a quick update on North Street Solar because I've been asked by a couple people, has anything really happened with that? At this time, we really don't have any update. They've withdrawn their request for a site plan review. That's Kearsarge. No permits been pulled to date. The building commissioner continues to keep a close eye on this, and we're keeping town council in the loop. But right now, I really don't have anything to report, but I wanted to let people out there know that there's been really no new developments on that. The employment contract policy, this came up at town meeting. And since it came up, I've started to formalize a policy that we drafted back in 2015, myself and town council and the chairman of the personnel board at the time. So I expect there will be something for your board to consider in the near future regarding that potential policy to put some of those concerns at ease. And Route 1A roadwork, this is the last item. I was advised by Carl Baldoff today that the actual road work on Route 1A, the project is set to start on 6/6, keeps getting pushed back by MassDOT. They're trying to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. The construction detour signs continue to be set up around town, and Eversource continues to transfer the wires, cut the services, transition over the services, and do the necessary tree work. So that's really where we're at. So that's the TA update.
Great.
So that was quick, right on time.
Thanks. Thanks, Jim. Any questions or comments from the board members for Jim on his TA update?
I have a couple of questions.
All right, we'll go in order here. So we'll go Jim, David, then Mark, please. Jim.
Yeah, so on the contracts policy, Jim, some of the things that I heard at town meeting, and frankly, I've heard from a couple of people who I've talked to about this, and these are people that have background on the personnel board. I guess my question is, do you anticipate that the policy will require any engagement from the personnel board as we go into any future contract conversations with any of our employees?
I think we'll certainly keep the personnel board updated on any future contracts. I got the message loud and clear that they'd like to know what's happening and directly instead of having to fish around for it or request it. So going forward, we'll just copy them on the correspondence regarding future contracts. And of course, when I finish drafting the policy with working with Kevin, your board can certainly give us some input on it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be important because I think some of the feeling on those people who are either are or were on the personnel board is that they feel as though the personnel board is being bypassed in this process. And I have a certain amount of sympathy for that position, although I recognize that, based on what we've heard from town council, that, what we've done here is perfectly legitimate and all that. But I do buy into the notion that having, input from the personnel board is probably a smart thing to do. And it certainly would eliminate the noise that is happening around this question. And again, I've heard from more than one person who's, worked on the personnel board. So I think there is something to it. So I'll be interested in seeing the draft and offering some perspective on that. But while we're at that, because the other questions that I've been getting is, and there's some sense that what we've been doing is actually not allowed under state law. And I wonder if you could just take a minute and talk about, what we've done, why we've done it, and the authority that, we have as a board to do this based on, what we've heard from town council and so forth, just because I think it's important to make that message clear as well.
Sure. I'm actually pulling up the memo.
Yeah, Jim, if we could just, I think I agree 100% with Jim O'Neill. I know that we do have some other people waiting for some of these other items, and I fully expect Jim O'Neill that we're going to get into this in detail at our next meeting on May 25th. So, Jim Johnson, if you for sure just would try to keep it brief if you could, because I know there's a huge amount of information and investigations coming in.
You know what? I'm totally fine waiting until the 25th if that's the plan, Ben. So I don't want to derail us here tonight. But I do want to make sure we talk about it. Okay?
Yeah. We've been putting Jim Johnson and Town Council have put a ton of time into this, investigating it and researching it. So I don't want to short circuit it. But
so, quick response to Jim's question: yes, it is legal. We researched it in 2015, 16, and 17, and again now in 2021. I have legal opinions from from those years. I've provided the Finance Committee and the Personnel Board with a detailed memo explaining that, which Mass General laws allow for it. I will dig up that memo and provide it to your board once the policies are on there. I believe the Personnel Board briefly discussed it this evening.
Great. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. And Ben, happy to wait till the 25th to formally discuss it.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to short circuit you there, Jim.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, we will get to it and it will get us to attention in public session very shortly. David, please.
So, Mr. Johnson, as to the request for the solar array in North Walpole, you said that the request for the site plan review has been withdrawn. Does that mean anything? Are they saying they don't have to go to site plan review now, or is it some indication of a delay in the process?
Initially, it was submitted to the site plan goes to the planning board, but the building commissioner, prior to it going to the planning board, is required to sign off on it. Building commissioner has refused to sign off on it because he didn't believe they met certain requirements, specifically how this complies with Dover, the Dover Amendment. So he refused to sign it, and they questioned that, but eventually they just decided to withdraw it. We got a simple letter. We're withdrawing our site plan review request. You'll be getting a building permit request in the near future, something along those lines. So we're just waiting for that as to how they're going to proceed.
Okay, great. And then second question is, do we have any update as to the Norfolk County money that might be available to us at some point? If was there a decision to be made yesterday about it, and do we have an update?
I'm not aware of any such decision. I have spoken to Joe Shea, who is the chairman of the Norfolk County Commissioners. We had a really good, positive conversation last week. I think he's heard from a couple of other managers and administrators in the area. They made it clear they'd like to work to ensure that the funds get directly placed directly to the cities and towns in Norfolk County, but they're working with a law firm to ensure that they meet every single requirement. To date, the town of Walpole has not gotten the AARP funds, and neither has Norfolk County, as far as I'm aware. I checked yesterday. So the funds haven't come in on either end, but we expect them pretty soon. So we actually did receive a letter dated April 30th. I just got it today, basically saying the same thing that he told me on the phone. They're working on ways to get to the cities and towns.
Okay, because I think one of the articles in the Globe, it said that the federal government was going to offer guidance today or yesterday or in the next few days as to how the county can proceed. So I didn't know if that came through yet or if you'd seen that.
So no, I haven't, but I'll be looking for it.
Okay, thank you.
Keeping a sharp eye out for that, David, for sure.
You bet.
Quick math, if we took out I guess Brookline, Quincy, and a couple other towns don't get it. And if we go per capita for the rest, that's a decent chunk of money, definitely.
It is, yep. And when we find out more info, we'll definitely have Jim bring it before the board and his update. So, and I'm sorry, Mark?
Yeah, Jim, I just want to follow up on the Route 1A project. I have spoken to a few of the business owners, not on the Norwood end, but on the other end of the Route 1 project. It would be great if they could give some of the business owners a rough idea of, like, for example, will the construction project get down as far as Dunkin' Donuts, or, you know, how far do they really expect to go? And a little more about what the plan is, just because they have a long way to go. I know it's going to take more than 1 year. And it would be great. It will help the businesses plan if they have a rough idea, like, is it going to come down by, you know, as an example, Dunkin' Donuts or Mobile Station, or is it really going to be up the other end the whole year and then next year? So anything they can let us know would be a good thing for the business owners.
Sure. Carl's on here, so Carl, so I don't have to send an email, do you mind reaching out to them and asking them for a timeline? I know Alberto at the Mobile has asked me, and so is the twins from Dunkin' Donuts, so.
So, Carl Balda, through the chair, town engineer, I can answer that directly based on what we've been provided for information thus far, and there's really 3 work zones. The contractor is going to do a big drain pipe in Hoover Road when they actually are able to really dig. And then they want to section the job off and do all their full depth reconstruction between the Norwood Town Line and Bullard Street this year, all right? And separately, but together, they will also be working on phasing and sequencing to try and get going on the bridge over the Neponset River at Route 1A, at North Street, I'm sorry. So that's a very complicated thing. They're actually going to have to put up a bypass that's going to have various stages that they're going to need to proceed with that work. So if you can picture those work zones, really, that's what their anticipated work zone for this year. Now you might say, well, okay, they're clearing trees in areas that are outside of that, and that's because they come in with their vendor for trees and they try and do basically most of the tree clearing and trimming at that time. So they're outside of those work zones for that part of it. But I think the business owners and residents should expect that the areas that I have described, kind of independent of that is the Eversource crews, which are working basically from the center of town all the way out to the Norwood Town Line, and they've made good progress. But after Eversource is done, Verizon and Comcast are going to come in, and they also need to do work on those poles, and that we don't have scheduled yet. So the job is going to be divided into those areas of focus, but yet at the same time, there are other things that are going to be happening outside of that. So that should give the board and residents a rough idea on what's going on. So when you start to think about the Dunkin' Donuts in the Ace Hardware Plaza, Rocky's Ace Hardware Plaza, and said, okay, we don't expect to be digging in that area now, but they are going to be working up around the bridge at North Street and the Neponset River. You know, I can't, we only go we basically get a 3-week look ahead. So I can't tell you that on August 17th, they're going to be doing a certain thing out at North Street, but that's the general idea of how the work is going to proceed.
Great. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it.
Carl.
All right, so Mark's all set. And any other comments for Jim Johnson? No. Fantastic. So what we are going to do at this point is jump right to our public hearing for classic modern DBA Beacons 85 out on Providence Highway for the alteration of licensed premises to include a stone patio, given that the time is after 7:30 p.m. and this gentleman has been very patient with us.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for classic modern DBA Beacons 85 Providence Highway for alteration of licensed premise to include a stone patio.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. Proceed with a roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0. The public hearing is now open. And who is it that we have with us tonight on behalf of Beacons?
Ari Arian, the manager.
Ari, all right. How are you doing this evening? I really do. I honestly appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
Hearing before 7:30, and then some of the things come in and we drift a little long. So if you could speak a little bit, you know, the board here has all seen the plans and drawings and whatnot that went before the building commissioner and all the other departments. You could speak a little bit please let us know what you're doing, and we'll see if the board has any questions for you.
Okay, so essentially it's just an extension of our outdoor dining that we had previously. Due to COVID, we felt we needed more seating. So nothing's changed in terms of staffing or menu or anything else. It's the same experience and the same thing we've been doing on our deck that's on the front of the building. It's just on the stone patio off to the side. Excuse me.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments from the board? It's Jim, please.
So, if I'm counting it properly, I think there are 12 tables on the plan. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And so, is that an increase over what you had out front originally, or is it the same number?
It's actually less.
Oh, okay.
Because when you factor in 6 feet and then the square footage of the new patio, we actually could fit less than what we had last summer.
So I was actually hoping you were going to say it was more, because
Me too.
A business opportunity. Have you considered keeping the current space?
The space we had out front last year?
Yeah.
We've been told we're not allowed to do that for safety reasons.
Okay.
So we're just going to stick with the permanent patio and the permanent deck.
Okay. Could you just describe a little bit what the patio is going to, what's it made of? What's it going to look like? Just so people get a sense for, as you build this out, what the change will look like.
Sure. So it's stone pavers is the floor, and then there'll be a stone wall around it with like a bluestone cap. Mm-hmm. So it's just one big square coming off the building made of stone for people to sit on.
Well, it looks really great on the plan, and I recognize the impetus has been COVID, but of a nice summer night, it's nice to have that even in a post-COVID time. So I like the whole idea of making this more permanent, and it would certainly be a nice addition to the business you've got up there. So fully supportive of it, and appreciate you coming forth with the plan.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or discussions from the board member or anybody else under the public hearing? Yes.
You said me? Okay.
Please, Nancy. Yes, go ahead.
All right. I just wanted to comment. I have been by. It looks beautiful. It's coming along really great. And I also, following it, just wanted to comment how great it is. I know you got your supplies from Southridge local business, and then putting it in local business again. And especially with everything going on and how tight everything has been, it's, supporting restaurants, supporting you continuing to operate in Walpole, and then also support other local businesses is wonderful. I know some people may think you're new, but you guys have been here in Walpole for a very long time. So thank you. And with that, I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
I had a question.
Oh, sure, David. Please go ahead.
So this is going to be a permanent addition to the premises?
Yes.
Okay. But are they only getting temporary approval by ABCC at this point, or are they getting the full approval, the COVID approval?
And I can jump in if that's okay.
Please, Eva. Yep.
So they do have the temporary approval through Pat DeShane, but this is for permanent approval. So the patio will be an extension of their license permanently.
Okay. And the front part that is deemed unsafe, is there something they can do to fix that, at least for the temporary use? Or
So there was a limited site plan review that was conducted through the building department in conjunction with police and fire, and based on the recommendations that were made, they were advised that it was unsafe with the speed of cars and everything else that travel along Route 1, that they were very close to the road.
Right, but they can't be any closer than what's the name of that barbecue place? Across next to Grossman's there. But so I was just wondering if there was something during the COVID I understand for the permanent solution, it's too close to the road, but for the COVID solution, I wondered if they could come up with a solution like, what's the name of the one next to Grossman's?
David, as a correction, that's Clyde's. And
Clyde.
this year for their summer outside, the limited site plan approval process did the same thing and actually had them relocate their temporary to the side of the building.
Okay, that's fine. I understand. Thank you for the clarification.
Thanks, David. Thank you, Nancy.
I'll second the motion.
Great. So we have a motion and a second, being that there is no further comment from anybody attending the meeting. We proceed with a roll call vote to close the hearing. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0. The public hearing is now closed.
Thank you very much.
I'll make a motion to approve the alteration of licensed premise to include a stone patio for classic modern DBA beacons located at 85 Providence Highway, subject to the application obtaining final inspection from the building department.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, being that there is no further discussion. We'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0 to grant the request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good night, man. All right.
You too.
Aye.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay. Moving on to the next item under appointments. And I believe that we have everybody who's going to participate in this on here. We have the school committee chairperson, Nancy Gallivan, with us this evening, as well as the school building committee chairperson, Mark Breen, as well as the school superintendent, Dr. Bridget Goff. And I think that's about everybody. Oh, and Brian Jarvis, the project manager with Compass, the owner's project manager. So we'll have a discussion and vote on the special town election related to the middle school project. And the vote is to place a ballot question on the special election warrant. So before we get started, I'll just read that very briefly. And then Nancy, I'll turn it over to you to kind of introduce the discussion. So the ballot question wording is, shall the town of Walpole be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2.5, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bonds issued in order to construct and furnish a new grade 6 through 8 combined middle school at 625 Washington Street, Walpole, Massachusetts, the same parcel of land as the current Bird School, including demolition, site preparation, and the payment of all other costs incidental or related thereto. That is literally the ballot question. So Nancy, if you could just kind of kick us off here with a little description and discussion of what the school committee voted on this and sent it to us. So please.
So I would just want to introduce the people that are here. Our superintendent, Dr. Goff, Mark Breen is the chair of the school building committee, and Brian Jarvis. We're all here to answer questions, but Mark has a little bit of a summary to begin with. So I'm going to turn it over.
Oh, great. Yeah. Please, Mark. Oh, you're muted, I think there, Mark.
Mark, you're mute. Yeah.
Pardon me. So it's been a long process, as you're all aware, but we're moving right along. It's been very impressive work sitting on the building committee. I'm learning with each passing meeting quite a bit more as to how these things work, and I can assure you it's been a pretty thorough and rigorous process. I can't say enough about Compass Project Management and TAPE Architects and the members of the building committee, and I'm usually a pretty level-headed, slow and steady guy, but I'm getting pretty excited about the prospects here. So we're open to any questions if anybody has any, and we hope for your support.
Great. So what we'll do now is just go. Jim Johnson, do you have anything to add to the discussion here prior to going to the board?
No, just that we received this request from the school committee, excuse me, back in March. It's taken a while to get on your agenda just because I wanted to fully vet it. We have vetted it with town council. We've vetted it with the MSBA, Compass, And we circled back and also vetted it with bond counsel, finance department, and one last time with Lauren Goldberg at KP Law. So we're comfortable with the current wording as it stands.
Okay. Great. So we'll go around to the board now for any questions that you might have on this, the wording of the ballot question or anything related to the school building project. Nancy, please. Nancy McKenzie, please.
I'm all set for now.
All set. Jim O'Neill.
Could we just spend a moment and describe what the current thought of the project is, and just describe it a little bit so that particularly people who are watching, know exactly what it is we're voting on at this point. I know we're voting on putting a ballot question on a ballot, but in terms of the project itself and how the project's made up and so forth.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I would turn it over to you, Nancy, or Mark, whoever wanted to speak to that.
I'll be glad to get started.
Sure.
So we're proposing to build a new middle school for all the middle school students of Walpole on the property at Byrd, the current middle school, for half of Walpole's students. The project will the project will take a good couple of years still to go, and I'm gonna ask other people to chime in on some of the details of it, but it will be a 3-story building with the thinking that we can create a neighborhood feel inside of a big building. There'll be 8th graders on one floor, 7th graders on another floor, and 6th graders on the third of the 3 floors. And they'll share some of the larger spaces like the auditorium and the gym, but essentially each grade will have its space, and within that, each grade will be divided up into 3 teams so that the teachers and the students can get to know each other well. And that's the difference between a middle school and a high school. You want to create an environment where kids feel connected to friends and teachers and to their school by using this neighborhood approach. The project will, well, as Mark said, the school building committee has been working on this for years now. Well, the school administration has been working on this for years. The school building committee has been meeting for over a year. And the total cost of the project will be in the range of $120 million. We will have firm estimates by the end of August because we're now in what's called the schematic design phase. And there have been some cost estimates saying that we fully expect we'll qualify for state reimbursement, which is super important to us and the process. And we don't know the exact amount, but that will likely be in the $35 million range. And so that would lower the amount that the Walpole residents have to pay for. The cost that we're estimating for the average homeowner in Walpole is somewhere around $450 per year for the duration of the payments, which will last for 30 years. So that's some of the basics of it, but I'm sure Mark, Bridget, and Brian have some gaps to fill in. Yeah, Mark.
Mr. Barrett, through you. So just some dates here. If it were to make the town ballot this coming fall, the design and bidding would be finished by the fall of 22. Construction would start in winter of 22, and construction would be completed late summer of 2024. And I would encourage anybody that's watching tonight that hasn't already to take a look through the school website. There's a link to design plans, building layouts, all kinds of information, past building committee meetings and so forth. It's really a rich source of information on this project. And as I said, I encourage people to spend some time with it if they could.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Any other questions or comments from the board? David?
Yeah, one thing I wanted people to know too is that there had been some question out there about the timing of the election date. The timing of the election is mostly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Breen or Ms. Gallivan, that the timing of the election is the MSBA dictates a lot of deadlines, and so the timing of the election is based on those deadlines, and that's why it's not going to be next spring, and that's why it's not going to be this June. It has to be at that point where we have more specific figures about the how much money we're going to be asking for, and it couldn't come sooner than then, and to come later than then would jeopardize the timeline with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Thanks. Mark, please.
That is exactly correct. So we need some formal numbers to put before the community for a vote. And if we were to get those formal numbers and wait beyond a certain window, then maybe the numbers can change. And then the window in terms of, as I said, right now the window is for an opening late summer of 2024, which means the 2024 school year. If we didn't go to ballot for several months after that, we'd be opening at best the middle of the 2024 school year, which is kind of difficult to do. So Mr. Salvatore is correct that it's kind of a tight window.
And the only other comment about the location is that the new building will be between the current building and Washington Street, and that there will be two, there are currently proposed two roadways, limited use roadways down to East Street. One would be a dedicated bus lane, which won't affect the baseball fields at all. It'll be in the outfields, and beyond, a home run line. And the other lane is being considered is a drop off lane for the cars that had entered in from Washington Street, dropped off their children, and there was a consideration that may turn into an exit lane for some of those parents. So there's still some tweaking going on with those, and there's certainly some people addressing the neighborhood concerns on those issues. But that's just a layout of some of the issues people, I think, and as Mr. Breen had said, there are plenty of YouTube videos and videos of the presentations and stuff on the town website and the school committee website if you want to get caught up as to where we are on that project.
Yeah, that's a great point, David. And I'm remiss I didn't mention that David Salvatore is the representative for the select board on the school building committee. So thank you, David, for pulling double duty in that respect. Mark, any other comments, questions on this?
Yeah, I would just, follow up to what you just said, David. Thank you for all your work on the school building committee. I'd like to also thank the entire school building committee. I know it's a grind. It's very interesting, and I know you've all worked very hard to move this through the various stages. And I'd just like to say, great work. You did mention the webpage that talks about the middle school project, and I have gone there many times to get up to date. And I agree with Mark Breen. People should go take a look at that webpage and see what's out there now, and that's a great place to go to stay up to date on the whole project as a whole. I'm very supportive of the project, so great work.
Yeah, for sure, Mark. Thanks. And also to Dr. Goff and her team at the administration office has been Yeoman's work for quite some time now. As Nancy pointed out, it's a 8 years long process. So thank you so much for everything that you all put into it. Very good. So being that there is no further discussion, I would hear a motion. I think we actually have a couple of motions
I will make a motion to hold a special town election on November 2nd, 2021.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. Motion passes 5-0-0.
I will make a motion to place the following ballot question on the special election warrant. Shall the town of Walpole be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called the amounts required to pay for the bonds issued in order to construct and finish a new grade 6 through 8 combined middle school at 625 Washington Street, Walpole, Mass., the same parcel of land as the current Bird Middle School, including demolition, site preparation, and the payment of all other costs incidental or related thereto.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Being that there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0.
I will make a motion to sign the special election warrant.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. Motion passes 5-0-0. Thank you very much for all of you for being on tonight, all the additional information. And just to say one more time, please check and continue to check the school's website in regards to this project. There's new information going up there all the time. So to stay abreast of the issue, that's where it is. Any other comment or questions from Nancy or Mark? Statements? Yeah, please, Nancy.
Just want to thank the board for its support and encourage people to stay well informed, because it should be a really very important investment that will serve the town well. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. And Mark, please.
And I'd like to say thank you as well. This is awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We all appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks, Brian. All right. Moving on to item 8 under new business is a discussion and possible vote on the town administrator's memo regarding the police chief search and a course of action. Jim Johnson, if you could.
Sure. So this is an important decision that this town is going to be facing. This board ultimately is going to make that decision. And I wanted to start out early and basically outline the course of action that I have identified and make sure that your board is comfortable with that course of action in filling the expected police chief vacancy over the next several months. So basically what you have here is a path that, and I'd like to run the board through it so everyone at home can kind of follow it through. So item 1, select board to authorize 2 solicitations: advertisement, recruitment, and hiring of a lead consultant, and item 2, which is the assessment center, which will be a sub-consultant. We want to hire someone to come in and find us a chief, whether it be an internal candidate or external candidate. And once that person, those people are recruited, the expectation is they'll be narrowed down to 5 to 7 candidates, maybe 3, whatever it is. We'll conduct an assessment center, as we have done on both the police and fire sides, to rank those candidates as far as their professional competence. It's expected that if approved, both consultants will meet with town administration, members of the board, and if necessary, other town officials to review the Walpole Police Department's mission statement and appropriate internal Walpole Police Department documents to understand the town's expectations. They will prepare a position statement. They'll recruit candidates with active outreach in the Mass Municipal Association, IACP, and the Police Chiefs Association. They'll conduct preliminary interviews with top candidates that may likely involve some type of subcommittee with residents or department heads or whomever the board and the recruiter deem appropriate. Narrow the field down to the top 5 candidates for the assessment center to occur with retired chiefs. They'll basically take all the top candidates through a day's worth of exercises and see how they react under pressure. And recommendation after that of 3 to 4 candidates. Again, this is up to discussion, and we'll probably fine tune it as we go along. The board will then interview the finalists in public session, and the board will finally vote on the final candidate. This is the select board's appointment. It is, Walpole has a strong board when it comes to selecting your chiefs, and I want to make sure that you folks are comfortable with this course of action. So I'll take any questions, or Ben, however you want to handle it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Jim. I mean, that's a really comprehensive rundown, and I think that's, if we come away with anything tonight, I know that we'll probably have a vote, but it's so important that the residents of Walpole and the community at large understand that this is just the beginning of the process. And I've heard from a couple of residents who have said, hey, what's going on with that? You know, we want to have a say, or we want to have our input be heard. And so that's a very important part of the process. It's going to be a part of the process going forward. So this is just the start of what is going to be a very long and thorough process. So I'll just go around here to the board members for any questions or comments for Jim in this regard. Nancy?
I'll go last.
Okay. Jim O'Neill.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So I like the process that Jim Johnson has laid out for us tonight. In my view, this is one of the most important positions in our town leadership. And from where I sit, I want to see a deliberate, thoughtful, and transparent process. And I want to see significant citizen input in the process as we lay down our requirements for the new chief. So I think that what you've laid out, Jim, makes a lot of sense. That last piece that I just said about, you know, formulating the perspective from the board, you know, what is it that the board is looking for in a new chief, and making sure that we have significant input to that and to any kind of screening committee that we do, I think is going to be very important. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Jim. David?
I just had, when was a process like this used before in the town to search for a chief, either fire or police?
So, no, it wasn't. I had to go back to when I was selected as the town administrator 7 years ago almost, and really figure out what was the process, you know, we followed, what did we do? And I was in a unique situation because I was the acting town administrator, but I was also sure that I was going to go for the job. So I tried to follow some of that. At the time, we did not do an assessment center. Generally, assessment centers are only reserved for public safety personnel, but we have followed the assessment center route when we selected the deputy chief, lieutenants, and on the fire side, Chief Bailey also conducts that too.
Okay, and the only other thing I would say is it looks pretty reasonable, it looks right. Maybe ask our current chief what he went through in Newton to see if, you know, there were any processes there that we might want to add to it. So, but it looks good. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, thanks, David. And there was an assessment center component to what Chief Michael went through, or what the city of Newton went through. They had an assessment component as well to get input from, you know, other experts in the field, experienced personnel in the field. So I know that was a key component, at least when I talked to Jim about what we wanted to incorporate here. So that's a fair point. Let's see, Mark, please.
Yeah, I would just say, Jim, I think the process you've outlined is a good one. I like the process. I like the assessment center. I think I also realize that it's going to take a while. You know, we're going to want to do a good job all the way through. So this is not a process that we're going to start and finish in a month. It's going to take a while. And I think feedback from the board and the public is a great thing. And I think this is the way to do it. So looks good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. And Nancy.
Thanks. I just appreciate going last because I haven't spoken to anyone about any of this. So it was just good to hear what people were thinking. Having gone through this with Jim, you're absolutely right. You know, it worked out really well. you know, one of the things that we had done back with Jim is we had all kind of selected an avatar, because there is that process, the part of the process that has to stay private until they're officially announced, that we could probably look into doing something like that again. I did wonder what the cost is going to be for us.
I estimate, I've actually spoken to a few firms. I expect that the cost to hire a recruitment firm is about $10,000. That's about half of what it cost when you guys went out and worked with UMass, the UMass Center, and about the same for the assessment center. So all in, I'm guessing around $20,000 or so.
So will we be bidding these?
We'll be adhering to whatever purchasing laws are out there, yeah.
So is that the bidding process?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, no, I think that looks really great. And as Jim O'Neill said, you know, the more people from the public that we get involved, I think is really a good idea to get all the citizens' input.
So my plan, Nancy, just to address that, is get the recruiter on board, have him or her come in and meet with you folks one night, introduce that person to the public, and really have him or her go through the process that person has used in other communities, because it changes. The recruiters I've talked to, it's different. It gets tailored to the community, whether it be Walpole or Cambridge or wherever else. They want input from the executive body, who's the appointing authority in this, before they set forth, because they want to make sure you guys are comfortable with it. I know we talked about avatars. I remember who interviewed me all those years ago, but I also am mindful of what I think it was Jim who mentioned the public process and everything. So I think they'll want to get input from you folks as to how you'd like to proceed with this, because there are several routes you could go. You could go, goes right to you folks, you're the only interviewee, or it goes out for more public input. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I like that idea, and you are right. There are different kinds of boards, and we are officially considered a strong board as opposed to other towns that may not have that process. So again, you are right. It is important for all of us or whoever's sitting in our chairs to be able to continue to act as a strong board, and that's the point of our charter. So good job, Jim.
thank you.
Yeah, it's an exhaustive process already, and we're just getting started. So, thank you. So, if there is no further discussion from the board, I would hear a motion, please.
Hold on. All right, sorry. A motion to authorize the town administrator to move forward with 2 solicitations, advertisement, recruitment, and hiring lead consultant and assessment center sub-consultant.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
I'm gonna switch it up and do the Nancy thing. Yes.
David?
Yes.
There you go.
Mark?
Yes.
And Ben, yes. The motion
All right.
passes 5-0-0. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nancy, for keeping us on track here tonight with the motions. It was kind of sketchy there for a little bit. Okay, last item here under unfinished business is a discussion and vote on the charge and makeup from the Master Plan Implementation Committee, and a vote to appoint a select board designee. So this is an item, you know, as I said, it's an unfinished business. We didn't have a full board the last time around, and so it was the will of the board to put this off until now. Given, you know, that there wasn't really any time constraints on us, it wasn't a difficult move to take it up tonight. We have Patrick Deschaines with us, the Economic Development Director for the town of Walpole, who helped to, with Patrick Shield, the Assistant Town Administrator, they wrote the charge and the proposed makeup, which we'll discuss tonight. So before we get into it, I had received outreach from a few folks in the interim between the first time we talked about it in our last meeting and then this evening. And in answer to some of those questions, Jim Johnson and I had talked with town council. So I just wanted to put a couple other pieces of information out there in regards to this prior to the discussion, and then we can get it into it here board. So one of the questions was by the select board moving forward with assembling the master plan implementation committee, which is what this group would be called. Is it putting the town at risk in any way legally? Is the board overstepping its bounds by convening this group? And the answer from council and from Mass General Laws was no. That the board is not putting the town at risk. This is a pretty standard procedure for the board to put together an implementation committee, for that purpose, right? We want all experts on all of these elected boards. We want all of the experts and experienced people from the town to be involved. It's just a reasonable way forward, and that's something that the select board is typically tasked to do and has the power to do so. The other questions I received was about how the planning board then factors in, because the planning board by charter is required to oversee this process. So I was glad to get the information from council, but the gist of it is this: is that the master plan implementation committee in no way usurps the ability or the statutory authority, I should say, of the planning board. Planning board still oversees the process. They have control over the master plan, just as it states in the charter. And so what it gives us is it gives us three different groups. It gives us the master plan implementation committee, which is this wide-ranging group of experts. It gives us the planning board, and it gives us the consultant, the BEAR group, advisory group that we've hired. And so I think through those three groups, we get a really well-rounded and reasonable look at this, because the master plan is so important. It's such a huge amount of work that I don't think it's reasonable or advisable to just put this all on 5 people. So that's answering a few of the questions that we got. I'll open it up at this point to the board, just go around and see any other questions, comments about the charge and the makeup that Pat and Patrick have put forward. So Nancy, if I could start with you, please.
Yes, and I appreciate that you guys held off on this. Having been the chair the first time we did this, and I was on the planning board at the time, and it was a really exciting time. The entire planning board was on the committee, and we had the full support of the selectmen, and it was a humongous committee. It was like 20-something members. But we had, anything? I'm sorry. Oh, I thought you shook your head. It was a big committee, but we had buy-in from everybody. And this document, that document, is what got all of these projects that we have just done. It is how we identified the police station, the fire station. It is, the fields, the library, all of it. And we had meetings in each neighborhood. We sent out a town-wide survey that was filled out and came back and had, we heard from anyone and everybody who wanted to come and talk to us. And it was grueling, and it took a couple of years. But in the end, it was a document that the last 20 years have, has shaped Walpole. We almost missed the cemetery need. And, Betty Cottrell called us up and said, hey, wait, you forgot about the cemeteries. And then that was added. So I understand that it would be really nice to be a focused, smaller group that's more manageable and easy to work through. But if you want this document to be the document that the planning board created 20 years ago, and to be able to have the buy-in of the community and have the support of the community, unfortunately, you got to do the work. And that's just kind of how I feel. I get that. I appreciate that you're looking to try to cover all bases, but appointing a school committee member, appointing a finance committee member, one way to kind of change that is we could say, or their designee, because the school committee has a lot going on trying to put together a middle school and move that along, whereas they could advertise to somebody that wants to be representative of school issues and go onto that committee for them. And the same thing could be done, with all of the others. we're spending money on this. We want it. We want to use it. We want people to believe in it. That, I've definitely had quite a few people reach out to me and say this seems to just be pushing through. I know it's tough with COVID, but it's gonna move on. And I don't want a document on a shelf that doesn't get used. We got so much out of the last one, and that's my worry.
Okay, thank you. Jim O'Neill.
Yeah, so I think I want to have some more conversation about the makeup of the board. Nancy's causing me to think about some things here that I may want to have some further dialogue on, but I'm gonna push that off to the side for a minute because I think I want to hear what the rest of the board has to say on that topic. My questions are really more about, we've got this, it feels like almost a three-headed monster here. You've got the committee, you got the planning board, you got the consultant. Who actually owns the process itself? So, with undeniable clarity, who owns it, who's driving it, who's responsible for making it happen?
The planning board.
Okay. And that's what I thought, and I wanted to make sure we actually said that publicly because that's another one of these things that has come up recently where there's a lot of confusion about what it is that we're doing with the appointment authority that we have around this committee. And I want to make it really clear that it is the planning board that owns, operates, runs, is fully accountable, full stop on this process. And that these other things that we're bringing into the process are there as support mechanisms to the process. To Nancy's point, there's a lot of work to be done here. It's going to require a lot of people. It's going to require a lot of specialization. It's going to require a lot of perspectives along many dimensions as we think about the community. And yet somebody has to corral it. Somebody has to drive it and own it and make sure that it comes to fruition as an actual usable working document that does set the stage for the next 20 years. So I think that's really, really critically important. So good that we've got clarity on that. The planning board owns it, and what we're doing is we're helping in the process by appointing this group of steering types. And I'm going to pause now, and because I do want to hear the rest of the board conversation around makeup and see where we want to go with that. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Could I just, Jim had a couple of points I just wanted to clarify.
Please do.
I have spoken to council about this because I have heard from some of the comments at town meeting and then afterwards, what's the planning board's role in this? So I had Lauren clarify. There's nothing preventing from the planning board from being involved in this process. The select board is the chief policy-making body. Your board's putting together an advisory committee to get the ball rolling, like you said, and corral some of this. There's nothing preventing them from participating in the process, and we're not in no way trying to keep them out of the process. So this is just to get it started, and we've been talking about it for a few years now, and just get the ball rolling on this. But in no way what we're talking about here is anything illegal or inappropriate on behalf of the board, the select board.
Thanks, Jim. David.
There's been a lot of questions in my mind about the committee structure around town. And one of the things, I'm hearing here is that this would be an advisory committee to the planning board's ultimate implementation of the comprehensive plan. Why is the select board creating this committee? Why isn't the planning board itself the one that's deciding what this committee should look like? And that's the only question I had about it.
Yeah, that's a good question, David. At any point, the planning board could decide that they want to proceed with a master plan, and they could go, before a town meeting and ask for the funds and apply for the grants and all of the things that we've done in order to get the master planning started in this way. And so we've done all that. We're assigning this committee here to help out yet again with the planning board and the consultant So it's all about getting the ball rolling, and having the votes, and getting this process started.
Well, that seemed like a pretty circular answer, but is the planning board ready to take on this task? And, you know, what is their view on a committee that presumably would be advisory to them to make these decisions regarding the comprehensive plan?
What's the question, David?
Well, are they ready? Are they ready to have a committee doing this? What is their input as to what the makeup of this committee should be? What are they saying?
Well, there's 2 members of the planning board that are part of this committee, conceivably.
No, but
answer your question, David. I have not heard.
That there are 2 members of the committee, of the board, that you would put on this committee doesn't mean there's 2 members. There's going to be a member of the school board on it. That doesn't mean that they have control over the committee or have responsibility for the committee. It's the planning board that has the responsibility. And I'm just
master plan. That's right. Yeah.
What they're, you know, and if this committee isn't an advisory committee to the board of selectmen, it's not an advisory committee to the school committee. It's an advisory committee to the planning board, and so that the planning board should be the one that's saying, okay, this is what we think this committee should look like, and, you know, this is who we'd like to hear from, and this is, you know, the committee that we'd like to help guide us through this process. I just want to know what their input has been so far.
So far, I can answer that, Ben, if you don't mind me asking. They did consider, as you probably recall, we put out an RFP. We only received 2 responses. Katie Turco and Sarah Khatib both wanted to be on the RFP review committee. The planning board only had 1 representative, and Katie Turco was nominated by the planning board. So to date, that's been their involvement. They've nominated someone to be on there. They have not nominated anyone, as far as I know, to be on this master plan subcommittee here, because we're more or less turning to you folks and making sure that you're comfortable with this. The consultant suggested putting this group together to advise, as we said, and not reduce the statutory authority.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, Jim, I mean, I'm not sure what you're getting at, David, but I mean, the idea here.
My point is, if I had a board that was supposed to be advising this board of selectmen, I would not want that board chosen by another board. I would want the makeup of that board to be chosen by the board of selectmen, if that's who it was coming from. And I just don't understand how, you know, the comprehensive plan committee, advisory committee, to the planning board is being picked and chosen and developed by the select board. So,
do you take any issue with the individuals on there? I mean, I haven't heard from the planning board that they take any individual issues with people on there, people that shouldn't be on there. There's nothing stopping the planning board from hosting a meeting for the planning board and this group at the same time. They could have all their meetings at the same time as this group and have full participation of the planning board in all these discussions. Suffice to say, we want all of these people to be involved in the discussion, and I don't know anybody who could reasonably look at this and say that you know, Patrick Deschaines or somebody else shouldn't be involved in this. We're just formalizing it so that we formed the group, and we're turning it over to the planning board. Here you go. You know, I hope these people can help you in what's going on here, and they have full control. You're right. If the planning board doesn't want to use the advisory committee, they want to meet on their own, and they want to be separate, then they certainly can do that. There's a lot of options at their disposal, David. So nobody's painting anybody into a corner. If that's what you're getting at, I'm not real sure. But
no, I just don't understand. I just don't understand. Again, and I understand that the board of selectmen is creating a committee to advise the elected zoning board. I mean the elected planning board. I just think that the elected planning board should decide if they want a committee to advise them, that they should do it on their own and decide what the makeup of it is, and, you know, have full control over it, and have, you know, we can stand by them, the select board can stand by and watch. I just don't know how you know, but that's just the way I would run the committee system. But
yeah, and I think you're putting a very negative twist. I think you're putting a very negative twist on it, David.
Not a negative twist.
It is a negative twist, David. These people are here to help, David. The way the law works,
if someone has authority, the only people that can give authority to a subordinate authority is the authority itself. So, you know, one department can't give authority to a subcommittee of another department. The board is
which we're not doing.
Well, I think you are, and I don't.
We are literally, David. Let me be clear. We are literally not doing that. Okay? This is an advisory board that has no authority legally over the planning board or over anybody else. Simply to help the process.
It's supposed to be an advisory board of the planning board. You'd think the planning board would create that committee and not the board of selectmen.
Yes, they could have done that, David. You're right.
Well, they should.
Okay, well, you should take that up with them then. Anything else, David?
I'm all set.
Mark, please.
So, you know, I don't have any problem with the committee that we're proposing. I'm looking right now at the Walpole Master Plan Study Committee last time, and as I look through the roster, they obviously had more planning board people, which I hope all the planning board is involved. And whether you're on the list that we create or join in, it looks like there were selectmen, school committee representation, one or more moderators looked like they were part of it, members from the EDC. It was a very wide-ranging board. And I think as I look at the 11 that we're proposing, that's a wide-ranging starting point. And my assumption is that there'll be other people who self-select to get involved in that committee. It looks like the committee that Nancy was a part of was a great one. There was a lot of history and knowledge of the town of Walpole. They were a lot of the people who have helped make things happen over the last, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So as a starting point, I like what's been proposed. I think it's important to get started. I'm certainly not opposed if, the planning board wanted to surround this board and participate, if other members from other board wanted to join in, whether they're official voting members or unofficial members. It would be great to recreate, as Nancy mentioned, the group that was before with all that knowledge and be willing to dig in on their own areas. One of the things I've always seen on big committees is no matter who you pick at the beginning, you tend to draw more people in who have expertise. Nancy mentioned the cemeteries, you might get into ball fields, you might get into, whatever the topic may be, but you tend to pull in more and more, subject matter experts. And I think it would be nice if we could encourage people to become a part of this process. We do want it to be just as successful as it was the last time. So, that's just my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And to just expand on that and say yet again that this is meant to be a starting point. And I know, I can't recall if it was Joe Moraski or who it was that had suggested that the planning board post meetings at the same time as this board. I think that's great. It's meant to be a Big Ten thing. It's not meant to be exclusionary or usurping the authority of anybody. It's meant to be a starting point. It's supposed to be a positive thing for the town. We're going to need all hands on deck, as Nancy said. So, we should pursue it. In my mind, we should pursue it with that bent. So with that being said, Jim O'Neill, you wanted to come back to.
Yeah, so thank you, and I appreciate the robust discussion that we're having here. I think this is very important. Here's what I wonder. First of all, I appreciate the sense of urgency that the select board is bringing to this process and trying to really get the thing moving, because it is something that's very important and something that we do need to refresh, and it is going to lead to a broad discussion around things like, zoning and how we think about zoning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a very, very, very important process. So what I wouldn't want to see happen here is that we get off on in our zeal to push forward. And Ben, I really mean this. I think the sense of urgency is really important here. But in our zeal to push forward, I wonder if we'd be making a mistake by going too fast down the path without direct engagement of the planning board here. The outcome we don't want here is to have a board over here and the planning board over there. And unfortunately, I think that's an outcome we could get if we're not very careful here. And so I think under the charter, the planning board is responsible for the master plan. I think that's pretty clear. What I wonder is if we were to take a vote tonight that says, here's what the Board of Selectmen would recommend as an advisory committee, whatever we're going to call it, and the makeup of that committee, and send it to the planning board for, and I don't know what the right words are here, but for their, input, their, whatever, where they could then say, great, really appreciate you guys took the time to go and start the process. But we, the planning board, because we own the process and we see that in the charter, we want to do it a little bit differently. We want to add this or take that out or whatever we want to do in the makeup of the board. And then, have them either come back to us with their view, or perhaps we do a joint meeting and sort of hammer the thing out there. I really am concerned that if we're not careful, we're going to end up with this dichotomy where we'll have factions on this, and that is not gonna be helpful. So, again, I'm totally supportive of the fact that we want to move forward, we want to be aggressive, we want to push this thing, we have to have urgency around it. I get all that, and I support that, but I just want to make sure we're doing this the right way. I'd love to hear other members, respond to what I just said.
Nancy, 1 second. Patrick, did you want to say something to what Jim had said?
Oh, I can go after Ms. McKenzie.
Okay, thanks. Nancy, please.
Yeah, I appreciate what Jim has just said, and I think that is a great route, because despite it being legal or not legal, we're boards and we're in the same sandbox, and we should be making sure each other is comfortable. We should be encouraging each other's boards, not just sending them the memo that we put it together. I've been on these boards for a very long time, and I've seen a lot of things with interboard stuff that it's worth it to do it the right way. Looking at it, a senior citizen would also be nice. And then green space is such a big part, the forest. Walpole is so much about the forest, the farms. Could be a representative from that too. I mean, you've got a lot of heavy housing here, but we've got that whole green space, and historical side that needs kind of equal representation. I do like the idea of all of these, I think you've started on it, that a board member, but I think it would be a really great idea that we advertise for each of these boards so that they can make their own appointment, because then that is how we really, grab people to do it. Because also, I mean, some of these people, like I said before, I'm not going to say it again, but like the school committee, they got enough going on, but they could probably very happily pick somebody. So, so much work went into the last one. It was such an awesome document that got us through 20 years, and I want the same thing next time around. That's it.
Okay. Pat, please.
Nothing at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure you had your hand up, so I wanted to make sure you had a minute. Okay. All right. So, I think that's great. I would just echo what Jim O'Neill had said about just trying to get the ball off center here. And so it can't take 2.5 years to write a master plan. It can't take that long. That doesn't make any sense for the town to wait that long. There's too many issues that have gone unaddressed over the last 20 years for us to wait another 2.5 years. But, you know, if it's the will of the board to figure out a little bit more about this committee, you know, I would be amenable to any motion that anybody wanted to make as it regards this.
So I'll make a motion, if you could, well, 2 motions. I would like to add a senior citizen representative, and I would like to add a forest green space representative. And I would like it to change all of these representatives, other than the planning board, to be them or their designee. So like school committee or their designee, finance committee member or their designee, so they can add. Okay. And so then with that, I would like to make a motion that we send a memo to the planning board with this suggestion and ask for their comment and input. And if they would like to have a meeting to discuss it with us, and offer any changes that they have beforehand so we can look at them.
I'll second that for discussion. And let me jump in first. I love the idea of, you know, giving them an idea of what we have in mind and see what they have in mind. And I hope that maybe we could have a joint meeting. It doesn't have to be a long one, to talk about this and how best would they like to, you know, if they want to be more in the driver's seat, I think that's great. If they have suggestions, that's great. But I do agree with what was said, that as boards, we want to try to work together, not sort of at cross purposes. And maybe we could even suggest a date, you know, to get together, you know, in a few weeks or whatever makes the most sense, where we can actually try to get people in a room and, you know, see where we have all the common ground and what we can charge off and get going on. And I understand that as a board, we're hoping to get this thing kick-started and running. And I think if we can embrace the planning board and they can get involved and figure out what would work best from their point of view, I think that would be a good thing.
Thanks, Mark. I would just say I don't think there's any need to have a joint meeting. This is a very, very, very simple task to pick these. I am in agreement, you know, that we should send this to the planning board. I would add that we would ask them respectfully to take it up at their next meeting, whenever that is. And frankly, whatever input they have here, if it's 2 select board members and all the planning board members, whatever it is, I'm amenable to it. So I don't really see the need to have a big meeting and hammer anything out. Whatever they want to add to this is honestly, speaking personally, is fine by me. So that would be my request, is to send it to them, respectively request that they take it up at their next meeting, which would be the earliest convenience, and send it back to us. We can get going with this thing. There's no reason to talk more over it, to my mind. Jim?
So I agree, and again, I fully appreciate the sense of urgency, but consider this for a second, Ben. If we were to come together in a public forum so that everyone could hear what's said and we can talk to each other civilly and jointly, and come out of that meeting, you know, with full agreement on the go forward, I just think there might be some real benefit in that, even though it is an additional step. And I don't disagree with your point that this could be handled with a memo. I just wonder if, you know, we get to the even better if, right? Yes, it's perfectly fine to go do it with the memo. We could get a good outcome from that. But it would be even better if we sat down with them and took the time to actually have a dialogue across the board to make sure that we are completely in agreement, that if there's any rough edges, we smooth them off, and we really get the thing off to the right start. So I just throw that out as a thought.
Any other questions or comments from the board? And so we have a motion and a second. Being that there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
David?
No.
Mark?
Yes.
And Ben, yes. Motion passes 4-1-0. So Jim, I would ask, well, actually, maybe I'll get with Patrick and Pat. We can hammer out those details so that we can get something over to them as soon as possible.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and I would also say if they're going to discuss it at one of their meetings, you know, the whole concept or whatever, I'm happy to attend that meeting. I'm sure some of you are happy to attend that meeting just so, you know, if they have questions, we can answer them right away and, you know, we don't have to drag it out. So, you know, whatever works for them works for me, so.
Sure.
I agree.
Yeah, I think I've said that a couple times, Mark. I mean,
Yep, no, you did. Yep.
We're all available via email and cell phone anytime, so sounds good. I appreciate the board's input on this. I think I agree with Jim O'Neill. I think you said that a robust discussion is the best in this case, and I couldn't agree more. And I believe that's it, unless there's any other business before the board. I'd hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And I can't wait till we stop doing this, but we'll proceed with the roll call vote. I'll leave that to the next person. Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Ben, yes. The motion passes 5-0-0. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Thanks.